Hi friends, it's Bonnie with Turquoise and Tufa, and I am here to walk you through the final pages of Turquoise and Tufa's Native American jewelry catalog. This section will have some more esoteric pieces, and I'm going to try to do a little bit of reading, a little bit of showing you some documentation. I hope you will find it fascinating. Page 26 is where we begin. And with this page, I was looking at things that were kind of angular, kind of winged. And I'll start with these great curio trade collar tips, which were part of the private collection of Martha Struever. You see on the back, they have the copper sew loops. And what you would do with these, if you had a collar, you would sew these right on to decorate your collar. And then you have something super fancy. Who needs a designer shirt when you can sew your own collar tips on? So these were very much part of the Southwest fashion during a time, but I think we need to bring them back. You don't see them a lot these days, and so I think they're rare and they're cool. And I have seen some people make interesting things out of them. You'll occasionally see these V necklaces where people have put chains onto the collar tip. So Martha Struever private collection collar tips. She has some fun stuff, huh? She had some really high-end, but also just some really fun jewelry. Another winged piece from these pages is this railroad era curio trade Thunderbird pin. Isn't he cute? He's sterling silver. He is stamped sterling, and that sterling stamp, can you see it? There you go. I think buttons are really neat, so we'll get into some buttons here. These are the first buttons that I'll show you. They appear first in the catalog. We had some buttons last year from Marty Struever's collection. We didn't have as many. These appear on their original string. They come together in a set. And now I want to do some reading. Let me read this little blurb from Harry Mara's book again. I think I had it out for the last section. At the mention of the word button, the average white man instinctively thinks of, first, a means for holding together certain parts of wearing apparel, and second in importance, an article intended for decorative purposes. To the Indian of the Southwest, on the other hand, particularly those who still make some use of their traditional dress, just the reverse is apt to be true. In past Indian generations, such a view would have held even a greater emphasis because in earlier times, the use of buttons as fasteners seems to have been almost negligible. So let me show you. I love this book. It has great old jewelry and categorizes it by the type of jewelry. But here, I don't know if this is coming through, you'll see the earliest type of button, and those are the buttons that I have later in the catalog. But so here are some of Mara's buttons. You'll notice this button here, which is very similar to the cast button earrings that I showed you earlier on in the catalog. So the buttons of this type, look here at this shirt, this velvet shirt, and look at all the button decoration you see on here. And then over here, that shirt, can you see going down the arms, all of the little buttons? This says, detail of silver buttons outlining the yoke of the Navajo velveteen blouse. The buttons not only are attractive ornaments to look at, but also are pleasing to listen to as they jingle. This is Indian jewelry of the American Southwest just in case you wanted to know. We are back to Marjorie Bedinger's Indian Silver book, and I read to you a little bit from this book when we looked at the copper bracelet on the cover. But let me read to you from her section on buttons. She says, as was natural, the early Navajo silversmiths attempted first to form common, simple articles. One in general use and easy to make was the button. The Navajo caught love for this adornment from the Mexican who had acquired it from the Spaniard. From 1824, we find mention of Navajos wearing ornamental buttons, and they are shown in illustrations from 1840 onward. From adorning trousers, jackets, and moccasins, the use of buttons spread until men put them on belts, pistol belts, gun scabbards, saddles, bridles, leather pouches, pouch straps, and bow guards. Women's dress at first allowed fewer opportunities for such decoration. The Navajo women changed their costume to the tight bodice and the long full skirt. They could then use buttons freely, down the front of their blouses, around the neck, across the shoulders, as well as on moccasins, saddles, and bridles. And then finally, I thought this was kind of neat. This is out of Indian Jewelry Making Volume 1, which is kind of a neat book because it shows the techniques in making different types of jewelry. But I wanted to show you here, I don't know if that will pick that up, but these are very similar to the buttons that you see in the catalog that belong to Martha Struever. While we are on the buttons, I'm just gonna skip forward to page 29 and go ahead and show you the very old buttons on page 29 that were the earliest forms of button, and those are also from the private collection of Martha Struever. So you can see these, just like the ones in Mara's book. Tied on their strings. Okay, I won't keep doing all of this talking and reading once we get past this page, but I want to introduce to you William Haskell Simpson. William Haskell Simpson was in charge of the advertising department for the Santa Fe Railway at the turn of the century, 1800s into 1900s, and he was responsible for using Western art to promote the Santa Fe Railway. He created a robust advertising program, and let me read to you a little bit about him now. So this comes from Standing Rainbows, the railroad promotion of art, the West, and its native people. And it's from the Kansas State Historical Society. This is on William Haskell Simpson. Simpson vastly expanded the operations of the advertising department after the turn of the century, even as the railway opened new passenger stations, Fred Harvey restaurants, and offline freight and passenger offices. These facilities needed interior decorations, and Simpson proposed to use Western art. The railway's management agreed and gave Simpson authority to purchase, sell, trade, and use such paintings as needed for advertising and decoration. William Haskell Simpson collected quite a few incredible early pieces of Navajo and Pueblo jewelry, some of the earliest examples that we have. And by a stroke of good fortune, in 1981, Martha Struever received a call from Charles Good, who was the son-in-law of William Haskell Simpson. This was after Simpson's death, and Charles Good offered to sell some of this collection to Martha Struever. She jumped at the chance, and she kept most of these pieces in her private collection throughout the rest of her life. Upon her passing, people knew about this collection and they clamored for the few pieces that there were. And right now there are only a limited number of the William Haskell Simpson pieces that I still have. The swastika that you see in the catalog comes directly from William Haskell Simpson. It is documented. I actually have Marty's original sales receipt, and it's so neat because it says a box of assorted silver objects. In that box are loose squash blossoms, which we'll pay attention to later in the catalog, a buckle half, a swastika, buttons, and beads. I think it is very likely that these buttons are from the William Haskell Simpson collection. However, I do not have photos proving it. So I did not attribute them to the William Haskell Simpson collection, but there is good chance that they probably are. It is unlike anything you've ever seen. Do you see the little lattice work in there? And then there are also, it's kind of hard to see them, but there's little arrows stamped in here. And then at the top, there is a hole drilled. So this could be worn as a pendant. Like I said, very esoteric. That's the back of it. But with most of these early pieces, we do not have full provenance information. The ones that are available today on the market, you just don't have it. It's been lost over time. When you have a piece like this, the documentation that you have with it is everything. So, Martha Struever, directly from William Haskell Simpson. This is something that you could hold on to, enjoy, and if no one in your family is interested in it, you can make plans to donate this to a museum, and they would be absolutely thrilled to have it. Let's skip forward again. I know I'm jumping all around, but I want to show you the other piece from the William Haskell Simpson collection. Actually, there's this, and then there's a pair of earrings. This comes from one of the loose blossoms that I mentioned to you on Marty's sales receipt when she purchased the Simpson collection from Charles Good. The only thing that has been changed on it is this little bail right here has been shaped so that it will work a little bit better as a pendant. But other than that, this is a true piece of history with documentation. And I mentioned in the catalog, there's also a pair of earrings made out of those loose blossoms from the William Haskell Simpson collection, and you get to see them because you're watching the video. Here are the earrings made out of the William Haskell Simpson blossoms. Again, they've been shaped a little bit at the top here, and then they have had nice handmade wires added on by a jeweler. There weren't very many of these blossoms, and I knew that Marty intended to make these into pendants and earrings, so I started that process. I need to make sure I keep a pair for myself. They're really pretty. These are some fantastic vintage earrings. You've been noticing them dance on my ears. There are 3 layers to them. They come from a prominent New York City collection. They're just so pretty. They're posts. This is another pair of earrings that I'm gonna regret selling. Usually I regret selling every pair of earrings. I don't have any nice earrings that are of this style. This necklace is by Tony Aguilar Sr. And the reason I am firmly attributing is because of the brass cones. You'll notice, here's the hallmark. See that TA? It's the same TA we've been looking at all this time, right? Tony is the one, Tony Aguilar Sr., who worked with brass, and we can attribute this to Tony. That's fair. This one has some documentation, not it doesn't go as far back as Tony himself, but it does have some documentation, and it's fun. See these kind of lozenge shaped beads. It looks like it's not going to hang right until you put it on, and then it does. So it's a really pretty necklace, graduated in size. Now, you know, I always try to have pieces in the catalog that are more affordable because I don't want to exclude anyone from collecting Native American art. I want those of you who are on a more limited budget to feel like you can participate as well. Not everything has to be over $500 or over $5,000. So I have these really pretty turquoise and silver. Let's turn that around. Zuni earrings. Aren't they sweet? And you still get that little shimmer. So I'm thinking about you when you have a more limited budget. Goodness knows, when I first started working for Martha Struever, I came from teaching school and I was on an incredibly limited budget. And there I was in her gallery and my eyes were wide open to pieces that were just off the wall because they were so wonderful. And it took a long time before I could afford some good jewelry. This is a vintage Pueblo necklace, white clamshell hishi. Do you remember the white clamshell hishi necklace that I showed you earlier? Well, this is one with bigger beads, and then in between we have some just shaped turquoise, hand-shaped turquoise of different colors. We have some greens and some blues, and we have an old wrap on here that's a little bit beat up. Let me put this on. This was a piece that Martha Struever purchased for her gallery, and she never had the chance to list it for sale, and I have not listed it for sale all of these years. So it's a really lovely necklace, especially I think for summertime. It has kind of a beachy feel to it. A pretty Zuni bracelet, and I think I've mentioned to you when we have this older turquoise that becomes variegated in color, it is something that is just after my heart. Really pretty. Kind of a smaller fit. I would say small to medium fit. It's a little big on me, but I have tiny wrists. Now we're back to Aguilar family. Look at this one. Could be Tony Aguilar Sr. Could be Wayne Aguilar using Tony's stamp. It's a big, hefty pendant. You would need to have some nice beads, or if this had a clasp, you could hang it from something like this for a really nice look too. I have this fun pair of earrings for you to see, set with really pretty turquoise. These I had converted from screwbacks. So they're another pair of little dangles that dance on the ears, and they look really nice with this necklace. There we go. I'm thinking these are probably Pueblo just due to the decoration, but they could be Navajo made. This is another one like the white clamshell hishi necklace that is from some of Marty Struever's final holdings that we never offered for sale. And for some weird reason, I have not offered this for sale. I've just kind of held on to it until now. I have kind of a busy top, but check it out. It's not one of those that hangs way, way down here. So I think it's quite the statement piece. What do you think? Before we go any further, I want to show you the final surprise pieces, and I have a few of them. These are pieces I considered for the catalog and I just couldn't fit them in. When we are talking about William Haskell Simpson of the Santa Fe Railroad, that's one of the reasons I put some of the railroad jewelry in the catalog. This is a piece from Martha Struever's private collection. I really wanted this guy to go in with the other Thunderbirds and I didn't have room. So if you're watching the video, you get to see him. And very few of you actually watch these videos. I think about somewhere between 150 to 200 people watch the video, whereas I send the catalog out to a whole lot more people. So if you're watching, you get to see something that others will not have access to. Another little Thunderbird. He's a pin pendant, and I think he's so neat. He's smaller than the other one. So again, if you're someone who's more into understated jewelry, I think he's so fun. So as you know, I had Morris Muscat's jewelry in this year's catalog, and he's kind of new to me as far as featuring his jewelry. And I also wanted to feature the jewelry of this other artist who is such a cool guy. He is Hopi and his name is Lyle Balanqua. He is an archaeologist and he very rarely makes jewelry. He made some earrings and I immediately purchased a pair for my sister, and then I had to purchase a pair for you all. And I thought I would have room in the catalog. I don't, but they're really pretty. They're really just striking and they would go with any of your beadwork. This is for probably the men out there because it's a large piece, and keeping with that theme of multicultural idea sharing in jewelry, this is likely a Mexican cuff. It is super heavy silver, really pretty turquoise, and very modernist design. When you look at this, can't you almost see a little bit of maybe a Frank Pitania, an Alberto Contreras? Maybe, I know it's a stretch, but we could even move into like Louis Lomé territory. So it's way too big for me. I don't even want to like put it on, but this is a great piece. And I'm hoping that some of you will fall in love with the jewelry that might not necessarily be Native American made, but that you will see that cross-cultural influence. This final surprise is really sweet. It is little branch coral, little beads. It's a vintage necklace, Navajo or Pueblo. Comes out of a very nice collection of a well-rounded collection of some great contemporary and some great earlier pieces. But again, it's got that pretty summery, beachy feel with the coral, and it feels really good on. It matches what I'm wearing. I didn't plan it, but I like it. And in between here, we have the white clamshell heishi. So that is your last surprise. These are the earrings. They are also clips. I told you I wound up with a great deal of clips this year, and they're really striking. They are sterling silver set with purple spiny oyster, not sugilite. And for some reason, I like that a lot. I like the fact that it's shell. We also have these vintagey beads. They are graduated in size and they're sterling silver. They look really pretty on. There is a little bit of stamping on them. There we go. See how fun the beads are with these Orville Cine earrings? There's just something, they want to be seen together. They have nice weight. And I have a final Anthony Lovato piece. It's a horse in the middle of a figural pendant with a really nice stone. This is actually a pin or a pendant. So imagine if you had some beads that were a little bit, they would have to be smaller because that's the size of the bail, but look how beautiful that would look if you had some smaller beads. Here's the Orville cuff. I think this is the heaviest cuff of the catalog. You can see this silver work up here? It is reflected right here. This is one hunk of a bracelet. Too big for me, but my goodness. I love the way purple spiny looks with turquoise. So if you have a turquoise necklace and you love this one, be sure and wear it with your turquoise. I think it's just gorgeous. I chose to put these Orville Cine pieces on this 2-page spread because I think it looks so beautiful with Marty's and my mom's painting. There's purple here in this woman's dress. These are some hoop earrings, and they are hand done by Sylvia Begay Radcliffe. She is the daughter of Kenneth Begay. And these belong to Martha Struever, and I'll tell you a little secret about how you can know some of Marty's earrings. If she was having earrings made as a custom order, she would often ask to have 14 karat gold posts, and these have the 14 karat gold posts. So here's Sylvia Begay's earrings. And last but not least, I have this Clifford Beck Jr. painting, which has the distinction of belonging to both Martha Struever privately, and then after Marty passed away, my mom acquired it, and it brought my mom so much joy. She had it hanging in her living room, and so many times I would go over and she would be lounging on her couch and speak of this painting and how much it meant to her. It's large, and now we're going to have the reflection of the ring light, but it's just such a beautiful piece. Clifford Beck was Navajo, and he was known for these pastels that captured Navajo life. And this one is a woman under an umbrella. When we get up close, notice this woman's face. Notice her jewelry, her concho belt. It's a very relaxing scene. It was loved by two of the most special women in my life, and I hope that one of you chooses this piece and will love it just as much. It means something to me. It's hard for me to let this piece go, but I live in a very small house and I just don't have room for it. So please, if you're interested, let me know and promise me you'll love it. Thank you so much. I know this was a long one. There was a lot to talk about. Thanks for sticking with me, and thank you so much for your interest over the years. It's because of you that I'm able to continue doing this. And I just want to say that I appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.